Mara Sarah. I am so happy you're here. You're listening to the My Felt Story podcast, your place for Torah stories. From Avraham Avinu to Moshe Rabbeinu, we learn how to love and serve Hashem and how to be kind to our fellow friends. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. This is the story about making a house for Hashem. After Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people at Har Sinai, and Moshe came down from the mountain with a second set of luchos, Hashem said, I want you to make me a Mishkan. Do you know what a Mishkan is? A Mishkan is a place where Hashem lives. But why does Hashem, the creator of the world, need a house to live in? Doesn't Hashem live in the whole entire world? Yes, Hashem does live in the whole entire world, but we can't always see and feel Hashem. So Hashem wanted a Mishkan, a special place where we could see and feel Him, a place where we could come and serve Hashem and be close to Him. The Mishkan was Hashem's house in the desert. It was portable, so it could be built and then taken apart for traveling. When the Jewish people settled in Eretz Yisrael, they built a big, beautiful Beis HaMikdash. What do you think it looked like inside Hashem's Mishkan? What do you think it felt like to be inside there? Inside Hashem's Mishkan, there was beautiful, shiny gold furniture and colorful curtains. There were many Kohanim dressed in white that served in the Mishkan, and the Kohen Gadol, dressed in beautiful robes, who brought the tefillos of the Jewish people to Hashem. Come and let's see how they built the Mishkan. Moshe told the Jewish people they could bring donations for the Mishkan. They needed many different materials. They needed shiny gold, silver, and copper. They needed wool from goats and lambs, dyed in pretty colors for weaving. They needed linen fabric to make the clothing of the Kohanim. They needed skin from a ram dyed red, and they needed skin from a tachash dyed blue. Do you know what a tachash is? A tachash is a mysterious animal that Hashem made just to be used for the Mishkan. Nobody today knows exactly what a tachash looks like. They used its skin to make waterproof covers for the Mishkan. They needed many logs of wood for building. The wood was from a shittah tree, because a shittah tree is super strong and durable and doesn't get ruined from water or insects. How do you think they had so many shittah trees in the desert? Yaakov Avinu planted shittah trees when he came to Mitzrayim. And when the Jewish people left, they brought the trees with them. Yaakov knew they were going to build a house for Hashem and started preparing many years before. They needed a lot of pure olive oil to light the menorah. They needed spices for the ketores. The ketores was a special korban that they brought every day. And lastly, they needed precious gemstones for the choshen. Where would they find precious gemstones in the middle of the desert? Well, the Onon HaKavod delivered them to Moshe. It was a special delivery service right in the desert. Do you think the Jewish people wanted to give their things for Hashem's house? Yes, they did. The Jewish people were so excited to give donations for this very special project. They brought their golden jugs, silver jewelry, copper mirrors, and many, many rolls of wool. They gave and gave and gave so much that Moshe said, Please, stop giving donations. We have more than we need. Now that Moshe had all the materials, it was time to start building. Hashem chose Bezalel and Oholiav, who were very talented builders and craftsmen, to be in charge of this holy project. Do you wish you could help build the Mishkan? They needed a lot of helping hands. The first thing Hashem told Moshe to make was an aron, a beautiful gold box to hold some very special items. Do you know what was going to be stored inside the Aron? It wasn't candy. It wasn't toys. Hashem told Moshe to put the luchos inside the Aron. Moshe put the broken luchos and the new luchos inside the Aron. The Aron was made out of wood and covered with gold. But Salal didn't just paint it with gold. He built 3 boxes that fit into each other. The middle one was made out of wood, and the inner and outer boxes were made out of gold. So the wood was covered with gold all over. Hashem said to put a gold crown around the Aron and 2 rings on each side of the Aron for poles to go through them. That's how the Aron and all the other kelim were to be carried around in the desert when they were traveling. The cover of the Aron was the most special part. Hashem asked Moshe to make the lid out of pure gold and hammer 2 kruvim for that piece of gold. One was a girl and one was a boy, and they had wings that spread over the Aron as if protecting it. The Aron was placed in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This was the holiest room of the Mishkan. No one went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Only the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. There was a beautiful paroches curtain separating the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It was woven with blue, red, and purple wool as well as linen. And Moshe would stand behind the curtain and hear Hashem's voice come out from between the kruvim. Next to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, behind the paroches curtain, was the Kodesh. In the Kodesh, there was a golden shulchan table. It was also made out of shittim wood and covered with gold. Just like the Aron, it had a golden crown around it and rings with poles so it could be carried when Bnei Israel traveled. There were 12 loaves of bread called lechem hapanim. These were baked in a special shape with 2 sides bent up like walls. They were stacked on the shulchan in 2 piles, 6 on each side. The lechem hapanim sat on tubes which helped airflow around the bread. This helped the loaves stay fresh all week and not get moldy. Every Friday, the Kohanim would bake a fresh batch of lechem hapanim. On Shabbos, they put the new bread on the shulchan and took off the old bread to eat. Even though it sat on the shulchan for a whole week, the bread miraculously tasted fresh. Also in the Kodesh was a big, beautiful menorah made out of pure gold. It had cups, knobs, and flowers as decorations. It wasn't made piece by piece and then melted together. It was made from 1 piece of pure gold. Moshe wasn't sure how to hammer such a complicated menorah from 1 piece of gold. Hashem said, "Throw the gold into the fire and I will make it." So Moshe threw a big piece of gold into the fire and out came a beautiful golden menorah. The menorah had 7 branches, and at the top of each one was a cup for oil. Every evening, a Kohen would pour pure olive oil into each cup. The Kohen would use a special tongue to make sure the wicks were all turned to face the middle flame. Every evening after sunset, a Kohen would light the menorah. In the morning, the Kohen would use a scoop to clean out the ashes and make it ready to be used again. Next to the menorah and the shulchan, there was a beautiful golden mizbeach called the Mizbeach HaZahav. It was made out of wood and covered with gold. The Mizbeach HaZahav was used every morning and every evening for the ketores. The ketores was a mix of spices that was burned on the Mizbeach. Some of the spices smelled good and some smelled not so good, but when they were all together, they smelled delicious and made the whole Mishkan smell so yummy. The ketores made a lot of smoke. The smoke rose in a straight column up to the ceiling and then spread out to fill the whole room. Can you imagine how it looked in the Kodesh every evening? First they would light the menorah, and then they would burn the ketores. The whole room was filled with smoke. It reminded the Kohen of how it felt at Har Sinai with smoke and lightning. The Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim were covered with beautiful tapestries of colorful wool and linen. There were 50 golden hooks in the middle, so when you looked up, you saw beautiful designs, and the golden hooks looked like twinkling stars. On top of the tapestry was a covering of black goat's hair, and on top of that was a covering of red ram skin, and on the very top was a waterproof cover made from tachash skins dyed blue. This layer kept the Mishkan protected from rain and sand. Outside the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim was a big chotzer courtyard, surrounded by linen curtains. The entrance to the chotzer was a big curtain made of colored wool and linen with pictures of lions on it. The chotzer did not have a roof, it was outdoors. Now in the chotzer there was a huge, giant Mizbeach HaNachoshes, a copper Mizbeach, which was used to bring up the animal karbonos. Do you know what a karbon is? A karbon is a present for Hashem. Sometimes it was made out of spices like the ketores, sometimes it was a bird, and sometimes it was an animal like a sheep, a goat, or a cow. When a person wanted to show their love for Hashem, say thank you, or say sorry for a mistake they made, they would choose an animal, a beautiful, healthy, strong animal, and bring it to the Mishkan as a present for Hashem. The Kohen would inspect the animal to make sure it didn't have any blemishes or cuts or bumps, and then he would walk up the long ramp of the Mizbeach HaNachoshes, up till the very top, where he would shech the animal in a gentle and kind way that didn't hurt the animal. Some karbonos would get all burned in the fire, and sometimes the Kohanim would get to roast the meat and eat from the karbon. Every single morning and night, a karbon tamid was brought on the Mizbeach HaNachoshes. Now we don't have a Mishkan or a Beis HaMikdash. How can we bring karbonos presents to Hashem? How can we show Hashem that we love Him and say sorry for our mistakes? We don't have a Mizbeach, and we don't have Kohanim to help us bring karbonos. Well, now we have a different way. Our davening is a karbon present to Hashem. When we talk to Hashem and daven with kavanah, it is just like bringing a karbon. We tell Hashem how much we love Him, how grateful we are for all the blessings He has given us, and also we can tell Hashem when we're sad or afraid and when we want help to do better. Using our hearts to daven is just like bringing a karbon, and Hashem is always here and ready to listen to our tefillos. In the Mishkan, the Kohen was the special helper to bring the karbonos. Do you know why the Kohen was the helper? Because the Kohanim were so kind and caring. When someone made a mistake, they would have compassion for the person, and then they would go up the ramp and ask Hashem to forgive them for their mistake. Only with love and compassion would the karbon work. The Kohanim taught us how to serve Hashem with love. Now we don't have a Mishkan, but we can all be Kohanim and serve Hashem. We can use our love and kindness. When a friend makes a mistake, we can help them feel better. Oh, it's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Hashem loves you. You are precious to Hashem. Hashem will forgive you. Before the Kohanim would start their day of working in the Mishkan, they would wash their hands under a big, beautiful, shiny kior. The kior was also in the chotzer. It was a copper basin with taps for water to flow out. The Kohanim would bend over and place their right hand on their right foot and the left hand on their left foot, washing their hands and feet at the same time. The kior was made from the shiny copper mirrors that the women gave. When Moshe saw the mirrors, he wasn't sure about using them for the Mishkan. But Hashem said, "These mirrors are the most precious to me of all the donations." The women used the mirrors to make themselves look beautiful. This brought hope to their husbands who were working so hard in Mitzrayim. This gave their husbands strength and courage to continue when things were so hard for them. These mirrors were so very precious to Hashem, and they were used to make the beautiful kior that the Kohanim used each morning to wash their hands and feet. Washing their hands and feet made the Kohanim tahor, pure, and ready to serve Hashem. Do you wash your hands negelvasser before you start your day? Now it was time to make the big day kahuna, the clothing for the Kohanim who would serve in the Mishkan. The Kohen Hedyot, the ordinary Kohen, wore 4 garments, and the Kohen Gadol wore 8 garments. The Kohanim had to wear special clothing to work in the Mishkan. When they put it on, they felt ready to serve Hashem. It had to be clean and fit well. If they were stained or ripped, they could not wear them. Do you make sure to look clean and tidy like a Kohen? Let's see what the Kohanim wore. Every Kohen wore a ketonis. The ketonis was a long white shirt made out of linen and had bumps on it like a waffle. Each Kohen had his own ketonis made to fit him. It reached down to his heels but couldn't touch the floor. Then they would wrap a very long avnate belt around their waist. It was made from red, blue, and purple wool and linen. As the Kohen tied the avnate around and around his waist, he would prepare himself to be ready to serve Hashem. Does your tati put on a gartel before he davens? On Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol wore a white avnate. Under the ketonis shirt, all the Kohanim wore michnasayim shorts, and they were also made from linen. Around their heads, the Kohanim wore migba'at turbans made from a long strip of linen. Did you know the Kohanim had to get dressed in a special order? First they put on their michnasayim pants under their regular clothes. Then they took off their regular clothes and put on their ketonis, the avnate, and lastly the migba'at. This way they were able to get dressed in a tznius way. The Kohen Gadol had 4 extra beautiful items that he wore when he served in the Mishkan. He wore a blue me'il made from wool. The wool was dyed blue from the chilazine, a special sea creature. At the bottom of the me'il were little golden bells and colorful pomegranates. The bells would make a soft jingling sound as the Kohen Gadol walked to let people know he was coming. The Kohen Gadol wore an ephod apron over the me'il. The ephod was made from blue, red, and purple wool, linen, and real gold. The gold wasn't just glued on. It was hammered into thin sheets, cut into tiny threads, and then woven right into the fabric. On each shoulder there was a shiny black onyx stone with the names of the Shvatim engraved on them. These stones reminded the Kohen Gadol and Hashem of all the Jewish people when he did his holy work. The names of the Shvatim had to be engraved onto the stones. But the stones were so special they weren't allowed to be cut with metal tools. How do you engrave on stone without metal? They used a magical little creature called the shamir worm. First, the names were written in ink, and then the shamir would miraculously carve the letters into the gems without cracking or breaking them. The choshen was a beautiful piece that the Kohen Gadol wore over his heart. It was made of colorful tapestry, folded in half, and had 12 shining gems on it. Each gem had the name of one of the Shvatim. Inside the choshen there was something very special called the Urim v'Tumim. It had the Shem HaMeferesh, a very holy name of Hashem. When the Jewish people needed to ask Hashem an important question, the Urim v'Tumim would help. The letters on the gems would light up to show the answer. This helped the people know what Hashem wanted them to do. And the tzitz was a piece of pure gold with the words Kodesh LaHashem engraved on it. It had blue strings that tied in the back to help keep it in place. The tzitz needed to stay on the Kohen Gadol's forehead all the time to help keep his mind and heart focused on serving Hashem. The tzitz would shine a special light, and whoever would look at the tzitz would feel an awe and love for Hashem. The Kohen Gadol's turban was called the mitznefes. It was also made from a long strip of white linen. The Kohen's hat was a dome shape, and the Kohen Gadol's hat was a flower shape. The mitznefes was placed above the Kohen Gadol's hairline, so you could see his hair between the mitznefes and the tzitz. This space was where the Kohen Gadol would put his tefillin. The Kohanim would walk barefoot, so their feet would touch the holy floor of the Mishkan. Did you know that the clothing of the Kohanim was stored in a very organized way? Each shift of Kohanim had their own storage space, and each storage space had sections for all the pants, all the robes, all the hats, and all the belts, so they weren't all mixed up together. Do you keep your things organized like a Kohen? Hashem asked Moshe to build him a Mishkan, because Hashem wanted to dwell and live next to the Jewish people. But also, Hashem wanted to show us how we can make our homes into a Mishkan and teach us how we can serve him like a Kohen Gadol. Hashem wants to live in each of our homes, in our life, and in the whole world. Did you know that there is a Mishkan felt set where you can build your very own Mishkan and also dress up the Kohen Gadol? Check it out at myfeltstory.com. And that's it for today, friends. I hope you enjoyed the story. Sending you lots of love until next time.